welcome back to.
You look so hard, but you can't see it enough. Just find it and take it, don't live regret it. Make me your only one. You choose it, don't lose it, don't let confuse it. Only then you'll be God. Feel like, feel like, feel
Welcome back,
like.
guys, to my channel. Welcome back to Jojo's channel. As we were going back through the Insecurities series, and I promised you I'm gonna bring some of my friends who are close to me to share their life, like some of the insecurities that they have been going through, how they overcame them, or the move, how they are trying to go through them. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, turn on that notification bell button, and be reminded that God loves you. We love you, but God loves you more, and He has a purpose for you. So our friend's today's Blessing. Blessing will tell us, he will tell us his name. He'll tell us where he's from, and I think what is he doing in Turkey. So yeah. Welcome.
Hi, Jojo fans. Like what Jojo said, my name is Blessing, and I'm from Zimbabwe. It's just a small country in like southern part of Africa. If you've been there before, like there's Victoria Falls, good food, a lot of good things, and actually, I actually got to be friends with Jojo because I got to be here, and currently right now I'm a student, undergraduate, and I'm studying engineering, industrial engineering. It's really hard, but I'm just glad to be here.
Sympathize with you.
At least I get to have these moments where it's like I'm not studying or under pressure or stress, but I get to be interviewed about my insecurities. I think it's easier to write an exam and do calculus than to talk about the things that kind of hurt you sometimes. But we'll see how it goes.
So you want some more of something?
No, it's okay.
You sure?
I think I'm fine. Yeah.
Are you being emotional? Are you being emotional already?
Okay.
How does that end,
No.
Okay, so thank you for coming. I really, really appreciate you coming. I just want to, for you to share with my lovely people, my beautiful, good people, my God's people, what are some of you growing up? Because I don't think our culture is I don't think it is so much different coming from African countries. Maybe there's just something that maybe our parents or some people around us, maybe they ignore, but they really affect us as we are growing up. There's something that maybe they take it as normal as a kid, me and you sitting and just talking to each other, okay, what are you really facing and all that. You just have to struggle your way. So what are some of the insecurities that you grew up facing, if you don't mind sharing? Because as you said, it's really something you're putting yourself out there, I face this growing, but I don't think you mind, do you?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. If I did, I wouldn't be here right now. But here I am, and I'm really trying to think about it. Growing up, it's as I was just coming here, just thinking what are the things that I'm insecure about? The things that make me uncomfortable, they make me feel insignificant a little. But now I'm just thinking growing up, I really grew up in a very supportive home. I grew up with my mom, who made me believe I was the best at everything that I would do. It's but I guess there were just certain I think growing up in such an environment, as much as it was good to receive praise a lot of the times, it's when you don't receive the compliments, when you don't really receive all everyone's thumbs up on stuff, it kind of shapes who you sometimes I just would really want to be involved with others and to just have everyone say, oh hey, this thing's really good at this, and and when you realize okay, you're not actually the best at all those things, and trying to come to terms with that sometimes, it's you're either overconfident when you're really good at other things, and then when you're even not maybe when you're the third or fourth best at something, you kind of already pull yourself away and you kind of feel indifferent. Sometimes it can kill your passion for certain things, because it's sometimes I think, oh, when I don't make the team for a certain sport, I'll start doubting my capabilities. I'm should I really go for the sport if I'm not really going to be the best? And I guess it was just one of those things, really wanting to be involved, because I grew up in a place where I really was so engaged all the time. So I don't know, I guess that sense of belonging has always been a thing for me, because it took a while, just trying to learn how to be okay, just to be by myself, because I really do love interacting with other people, but then it's sometimes I just feel I need to be the center of that attention, and it's just something that I've realized it kind of pulls out even into like the relationships that I have with people. It's like when we're doing something, it's probably going to be according to how I want things to be done. So it's like the time we agree and we're doing things is like I've already dictated how things are going to be like. So it's because like a lot of the time, I find myself mostly ending up doing something like, like if it's a project, I end up just like carrying everything on my back because like I feel like whilst I'm doing everything, everyone's just kind of looking at me and they're seeing like how well I'm handling things, and it just feels like, oh, okay, like I'm just there. I like sometimes I think about it's like you're trying to be like the sun and having everything rotate around you, and like what I've learned about that is I'm not as big as the sun. I can't really pull everything together sometimes, and like sometimes it may even hinder me from like reaching out to others for help because like I feel like, okay, like everyone's kind of depending on me, everyone's kind of looking at me, so it's like even just reaching out for help sometimes can be a little bit hard, and I'm just thinking like, okay, like I'm kind of handling this on my own and I'm doing it, and even sometimes I think it results in this kind of system like within me, like I'm still working at it right now. It's like this thing where it's like you can just I tend to say yes a lot of times to things. It's like sometimes I don't feel like yeah, I don't feel
it happens.
like but by God's grace mostly it's like things that are actually good for me. It's like I guess it's one of those things that I'm grateful for. Like I never really gave into peer pressure because of like this insecurity. It was just like I would know, okay, this is not for me, like this is bad, but like the things that I do enjoy, it's like sometimes there's things that just waste your time and you're like, should I really have been there? Even though like, it's like there's other things that you could have been doing, but like I'm always just down and I'm like, okay, yes, let's go, like let's just do this. And I mean, I'm still trying to judge like when do I draw the line and be like, no, like I just need this like to be selfish with myself because like sometimes it's like I don't know, it's like reversed selfishness, like I'm sharing myself but only to feel good about myself, not like sharing myself because like
you want to.
Yeah.
Wow, it's interesting. Wow.
But yeah,
yeah, I think I don't know, because actually when you were saying that, I just remember sometimes I say yes to things when I know really well that I'm supposed to say no. So with that, it makes me start stressing up. Like, okay, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to reach out. I'm supposed to go to a certain place. But then you can just say no.
Yeah.
We don't have to say yes every time. It's just like God doesn't say yes every time to just please us. He knows what is right, and he can say no.
Yeah.
Does that mean that he doesn't love us? Of course, he still loves us, but he knows when to say no and how to say no. And I think it is something that I need to learn, like to just say no, and not to feel bad.
Yeah.
And if I'm really your friend, if you tell me no, I'm supposed to be okay with it. Yeah. But as human beings, sometimes we're like, no. Yeah, wow, that is really interesting. So what is another thing that
another thing, like since you still want to keep poking my insecurity.
I'm not really poking. I'm just.
But yeah, like I think another thing was just I'm not so very good at doing things very quickly. It's like sometimes I tend to stay in my head whilst I'm doing something and I'm just thinking, or like I'm getting distracted or something. Sometimes I get caught in the process and not like the end product. It's like if I'm cooking, sometimes I can just like take my time just chopping onions slowly or like grating the tomatoes slowly or like just I boil the water and then like I kind of watch the rice, like if I'm cooking rice and then I'm trying to make sure like, okay, I don't burn the rice. So like I really just take my time doing things. And when you grow up in an environment where it's like when you're a man, you're supposed to be like doing things very quickly and very actively. It's like when I'm being rushed to do things, there's always just like that anxiety, when I'm just thinking like, oh, like like I'm slow, but it always feels like every time I'm doing something, like something slows it down, and then like when I'm under that pressure, I'm thinking like there's people waiting for me, because like when I'm doing something for myself, it's not so much, but when I'm doing something for others, and it's like when it's now slow, and then they're like, I should have just done this myself, like that, like you, like wow, that would really get to me sometimes. It's like when I'm just battling with this, and then like someone's like like that's perception of not being seen as being reliable. I guess it kind of ties in like to what I was saying earlier, but it's like when people don't think of me as being trustworthy or being reliable, that would really hurt me, because I just think like, wow, like if someone's in need of help, they won't reach out to me because like like last time when I tried to help them, it just seemed like it wasn't any good, or it's just like
it's like you are taking your own time.
Yeah, it's like it's just like it cuts you in half. Like you just feel like like even if my friends were like in trouble, they wouldn't call out to me because like they think I'm slow and I can't do these things for them. But I really want to help you, but it's like now you just kind of labeled me. And yeah, like I think at the same time, it's helped me to be sympathetic with other people, because like when I'm in the shop and like you're just waiting in line at the till and maybe like the tour operator is still new and like they don't know the codes, or like the machine just like breaks down. You know, like I've learned like, okay, like that could easily be me. Like I could be like having a hard time at work, or like there's something going on at home, like it's found its way to just be still there with the till operator, and like they're having a hard day, and it just has taught me to be patient with people. You know, like because like I've realized that I also need patience. You know, it's just that, you know, like that thing. I guess I've gotten to this point in time. It's just like, for me, the important thing is just doing it, and just doing it well. Because like at some point, you know, I would start rushing things, and like that even made things worse. And like, you know, just like makes the cycle even more, like, you know, it's like I was slow. You didn't like what I was doing. I'm trying to speed up. It's worse. And like, you know, I'm just stuck in the space of just being like at a steady pace. And I guess, yeah, you know, like just finding your pace and just being comfortable with it, and knowing like, okay, so if someone asks me for something, I'm like, I may not be so quick to do it. I'll just be upfront with you and be like, okay, here's the thing, like I may not be so quick when I'm doing these things, but I need you to be patient with me. If not, it's fine. Like it's just getting to that point of seeing like, okay, you can't be everyone's hero. You can't help everyone out. And you know, when you get to that point where it's like, okay, like even if people have doubts and asking me for help, it's going to be fine, because like I know my limitations. And you know, it's like once you know like what you can't do, you won't hate yourself for not being able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, have you, like these insecurity that you've talked about, is it something that you grew up having, or it's something that maybe you've developed as you're growing, or it's something, when did you realize that you have these insecurities? Like, okay, you feel like you are not reliable. You feel like, is it reliable, and like not so much, you're insecure in some areas. That do I make sense?
And like what helped me and identify these things.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's like sometimes it's introspection, you know, like just looking to yourself. You know, like I think when you're able to spend time with yourself, if you can't spend time with yourself and just think to yourself, then that's already a problem. But you know, like it's just in those times where it's just like it's just quiet, and maybe you're thinking about like the day, like the past month, or like, because like sometimes these insecurities, like they really like itch their way into your head. You know, like there's just those moments like when you aren't to sleep, and then like you just awake in bed, and then like, you know, you just remember something that you did so many years ago, and then now you're just cringing. You're like, ah, like is this what happened? Or you remember something that someone said, and you kind of think like, ah, like how could have things gone better? Or like, you know, like sometimes I even think about arguments, and I'm like, I should have said this. But I think it's like in those moments when like I'm asleep, well, I'm trying to fall asleep, and I'm just awake, and something just comes to mind. It's like a lot of the time I'm just reviewing things, and I'm just like, okay, like, so this is what I'm thinking about. Why am I thinking about this? Like, what happened? And you know, I try to think about the context, and just like to try and step out, because like a lot of times, you know, it's like you always just think in your own perspective, and like you're always just thinking there, and you're always thinking, because like,
Is it the right thing? Like to think in your own perspective?
no, because like, I mean, we're called to love our neighbor as ourselves. So like for you to now start to extend yourself to your neighbor, there's like that pulling away from yourself to see like, okay, what about my neighbor? If I was in my neighbor's shoes, how would I be reacting to these things? And like, am I still being loving, or was I being loving in that situation? And yeah, like in those moments, I started to notice like patterns, and like, you know, like sometimes like, okay, like I'm feeling this way, and then like another memory comes where I'm like feeling that same way, and then I'm like, wait, there's something like that I have in common, like in all these things. You know, like when I'm feeling insecure, I'm like, it's because she said like these exact words, or like, you know, like what exactly about it did I take offense at? Because like sometimes, you know, like people can poke an insecurity without even knowing it. You know, it's just like, oh, like maybe we're laughing or making jokes, and then, you know, it's like in the heat of the moment, we're all laughing, and then someone says something. People are still laughing, but
But you're like,
you're not laughing. You know, it's like
it's getting
like,
into you,
like, I didn't know that. Or like,
yeah.
or like there's those moments where like you see it through someone else. You know, it's like the story of David. Like when Nathan is coming to David, and he's trying to he's trying to rebuke David because of what he did with Hosea's wife. You know, it's just like first he comes up with the story like, oh, like someone came and he took someone else's you, and then David was like, oh, you should kill this person. And then the problem there, then like, because like sometimes in life you can see something going on, you're like, and then like, you know, first you look at it, you point it like, that is an insecurity. And then, you know, like by God's grace, like your eyes are open, and like, I have that exact same problem. And like the fortunate thing is that, you know, like sometimes you can be watching a movie with that exact same insecurity, the insecurity that you're going through. And I think, you know, like when you step away from your insecurities and you see like other people also have insecurities, and like they have all these other things, because like one driving factor is that when you think you're alone, in your insecurity, you think, oh, like everyone else in the world is functioning well and they don't go through these struggles and they don't have these inadequacies in themselves. I think, yeah, like realizing you're not alone. You can even open up to other people. You like right now I'm opening up to your subscribers about what's going on in my life.
You guys are blessed. Yes.
Yeah. Like, if you want to comment if you want to put your insecurities in the comment section.
Yes, please share insecurities. Help a person. Because actually for me, when you're saying that about like, it's by God's grace that we understand these things, it just reminded me like I had like when I talked about my insecurities, most of them it is like something that I faced when I was really growing up. And I look back and I'm like, without Christ, I don't think I would be reacting this. I would maybe be safer or maybe reacting better the way I'm doing now than I would like compared to the way I was doing it before. Because when you're insecure, when you feel someone is really poking you, you'll want to reply, you'll want to just like, to also give it back. But when you have Christ, you are able to understand that, okay, this is my insecurities. I understand that I'm not complete. We're only complete when you have Christ.
Yeah.
So when you understand that, you're able to know like, okay, God created me with this, like this because he knew that without him, I cannot fulfill some of the things so that his name can be glorified. I just look at things and I'm like, the way you say, like you look at the other person and then you understand, oh, I have also this weakness. It's the same so many times, like for me, sometimes I want to react to something. Like, let us just say, like, leaving dishes in the sink. I know it's not maybe related, but sometimes I find someone leaving the dishes in the sink without washing. Like, I'm so sensitive when it comes to cleanliness. I don't know why I get married to, but this thing, I always pray, like, I pray that my husband will be clean. Like, I know, maybe that is a selfish prayer. But I look at it and I'm like, when someone has left a dish in the sink without washing, I'm so quick to say, like, if you didn't have time to wash the dishes, then don't eat. But then I forget that, or maybe sometimes I also do that and someone washes it for me. So when I think of that, I'm like, yeah, this person was probably hungry and so much in a hurry, and I'm sure she didn't do it intentionally. So I wash it understanding that I'm sure she would have done the same. She would have helped me. So when we grow up understanding that I have some insecurities, you also have insecurities, it helps us not to like really, I don't know, like to react in a different way towards others. Like maybe you are slow in something. I'll be able to understand at some point I'm poor with this or I have some problem with this. So why should I like, come like, okay, with words like, oh, why did you do this? You're always lazy. You are like this, like this. Instead of like maybe taking a step back, understanding we have our own insecurities. We have our own things that we are going through. I think when we have Christ, we just go back. It helps us to just take a step back instead of like maybe going with like, I have to say this, I have to do this, to more and more be understanding, to more and more be like someone who, how can, I don't know how to say, like not really receiving, accepting people with whatever that they bring on the table. So that is really like something that just kept me thinking about also my insecurities and how I respond to things in a certain way. And with God's grace, sometimes you want like, like the way you said, like, oh, I would have said this, why didn't this come, Like when you are in a bus and someone calls you nigger, you're like, I would have said this, you're not even cute, you're not this, but then you understand, so are you even better than them? So like when you have Christ, you're able to understand that, okay, we are expected to respond in a certain way. Because if I respond to you with the same mindset that you're using on me, I don't think there is any difference between me and you. Yeah, do you want to, sorry, I talk a lot so many times, some of the time, no, most of the time. Thank you so much for coming this far. We really appreciate. My brother Blessing has a lot to share, but we'll continue on that on our next video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and if you want to be the one that really watches the first one, don't forget to turn on that notification bell button.
Encouragement
yes, there. Please. We know you are being motivated. Motivate someone else. Love you. Love.